everyone, Jess here from the Scrappy Sisters, and thank you for joining me for a mixed media frenzy on the Friday. So today you can see that gorgeous layout that we are scrap lifting, and I've popped it up in the top left hand corner to remind you of the different elements as we progress our way through my process video. So you can see at the moment I am in the middle of making my own little tassel. I chose to cut my paper into strips using my Fiskars guillotine, just to then I could measure them all out and make them as evenly spaced as possible. I just felt for a tassel I wanted them to be nice and evenly spaced. I don't usually do it that way. I usually freehand it. I know you can also buy tassel cutting, fringe cutting scissors, and I know you can also buy herb scissors from the supermarket that can work for a similar process. But for this particular thing, I decided to use my Fiskars cutter and really measure each little step out. You can see I've added a little handle using just a thin piece of white paper, and then I am wrapping the opposite color. So one fringe is in sort of teal and the other fringe is in a craft paper with a red stripe, and I'm adding the opposite color around the top to just sort of hold it all in place. Once those two tassels are made, I'm going to pop those aside, and now I'm going to work on the torn top of this layout. So I actually cut mine so I could be more precise with how I wanted it to look, but then I'm going to just dress it up with my scissors just so it has a little bit more of a torn feel to it. I've then got my little palette knife and this kind of tealy paint that came in a spray bottle. I'm not really sure what this paint was doing, but I know it came in a little card making kit that I brought for like 50 cents from Kmart one Christmas it was out in Christmas, and I bought it in like March of that year. So obviously very, very old stock, hence why so cheap. I'm not really sure why it was in a spray bottle. I think it was to spray over top of a stencil or something. I don't know. I never used it for that. But as you can see, I am busy adding splatters with the two different colored paints. I'm trying to smush the paints down this sort of waterfall look down from the tear. Just a little bit of everything. I think if I was to do this again, I would add even more splatters and maybe a bit more, like maybe make that teal not so all joined together in a big waterfall, have a bit more white space in there. But I'm trying my best to sort of match that purple messy feel that you can see in the example photo. The example also had quite a lot of other bits and bobs going on with it. It sort of had stickers across it. It had maybe even had some pen like swirly doodles. It looked like it had some stamps in there. So I'm going to come on in with my stamps, and as you can see, I've used a larger and a smaller circle stamp. Now I've got a really cute little love heart, and then the last stamp I'm going to use is also a little love heart, but it's a solid love heart instead. I don't often use my stamps on layouts. I kind of forget about them. I don't own that many, but I certainly own enough. So it was really fun to get in and to give those a go. I know part of the reason I don't use stamps is because you can't really take it back. Like at this stage of the game, my mixed media on my page is pretty much done. So if I do a big smudge or something, then I'm just going to cry, but I'll have to leave it as it is because I don't want to start again. So I know that that's definitely a fear that I tend to have when stamping in general. So now it's time to work on that top torn section of my page. I need to fill it back in, and I want to use the paper. I want to use the paper that I used to make my tassels so that they can match, that there's a bit of cohesiveness between my tassels and between my paper, like pattern paper that I choose to include. So that is what I'm going to do. Those are literally the two bits of paper that I used for my tassel making. So I just pull an old layout from beside me to help me work out exactly what 12 by 12 inches is. I absolutely could have got out my ruler or my cutter or something like that. Now, look, it might have even been easier to do it that way, but one doesn't always choose the easiest ways. This way worked, thankfully, so I can just keep going. Oh, dear. So unfortunately, the cute green edge, sorry, I keep losing my words. Unfortunately, the cute green or teal colored paper that has the tear in it was larger than I had anticipated, and it actually was too high, so I had to cut off some of that torn part, which is totally fine, but it just would have been nice to see more of the tearing. So I'm actually going to use that little teensy tiny scrap there that I've just cut off, just to add to a different aspect, a different part of the page. I'm not going to put it there, but I could have. That looks really cute when I look at it now. But I'm actually just going to tuck it in there underneath that torn white part. Now, for some reason, this part right now, the organizing this whole pattern paper at the top of my page, was by far the most difficult and time-consuming part of this entire layout. It just took me half a day just to do that. I don't understand why. But anyway, then it's time to get to embellishing and creating the rest of my layout. Now, if you can see in the example photo, it is a square that has been tipped on its side to be a bit like a diamond, and then it's got I'm not sure what the circle is underneath it, maybe a die cut, maybe thread, but my photo was never going to work to be exactly the same as that. Now, obviously, we didn't have to make it exact, but my photo was never going to work to be the same as that. I needed to use my 3x4 in its correct orientation of being horizontal, because it's a picture of a scene of people. But I really did like that sort of circular aspect going on around the photo, and I'd used my circle stamp to kind of enhance the circly part. So I decided to get this gold thread, for want of a better word. It's quite thick. It's almost like baker's twine thickness, but it's metallic, so it's not baker's twine. And it was very hard to work with. It had a mind of its own, and it was aware exactly of how it wanted to go, and it was not the way I wanted it to go. So in the end, I kind of managed to stick it down and around a little bit, kind of, but it's not exactly the way I had planned. But anyway, it does work out. I do end up later on in the track adding some glue, because it really wasn't staying exactly how I had wanted it to. You can see that there's one thread in particular that just has its own mind of how it wants to be. So now that the photo is down and the string, the circle, the string is down and around my photo, I'm going to start having a think about my embellishments. I'm going to use the Cocoa Vanilla 'Tis the Season collection that was from 2015, I think. I thought that frame might work to sort of add that diagonal feel, or that diamond feel around my photo, but as I'd already stuck everything down, that was going to be a little bit challenging to sort of fit in behind the photo, so I decided just not to worry about it and to get going with the rest of my embellishing. Now, on the example, they have their tassels coming down from near the tear, and they also have some words up there. I don't know if you can see it that clearly in the example photo, but they do. They sort of have their title up in amongst that tear. So I decided the best way for me to attach my tassels is to literally sew them on. And I just use a normal thread, a normal needle and thread, and just grab hold, I guess, of the handles that I made for the tassels. So I haven't pierced the tassels at all with my string, with my thread or my needle. I've just wrapped the string around the handle. One good tug and this is all going to rip apart, as paper might do. But I'm thinking in my album, it should be fairly secure. That, the pages don't really come out once they've gone into the album. And I think we should be okay. They seem fairly well stuck on now. And I'm hoping that works for me. It seemed like a good idea at the time. So I'm just going to roll with that. So then I get my heading, which is Christmas wishes, pop that up on foam just so it can go over the tassels, over all the tearing and all of that that's happening up here. And once that is on, I can start having a play with my embellishments. Now I end up really doing the same embellishment again and again and again down my page because I really like the look of it. So I get this sort of greeny coloured poinsettia. I assume it's a poinsettia just because it's Christmas, even though it's green. Can you get green poinsettias? Maybe you can. Side note. That's what my brain does. What does Janet call them? Rabbit holes. Rabbit warrens. So once I've done that, I also get a little tag that has something Christmas related written on it. I used so many, I can't remember which one this is. And I get the same of that gold thread and just tie it off in the end of my tag just to, sort of tie it all together, that gold thread had a bit of a purpose and to mix that gold in a little bit more. And I really like that. I'm glad I did that to sort of keep all the gold mirrored throughout the layout. And that's what I keep doing again and again and again down the page. And I end up doing that sort of 3 times down the page. You can see here when I've got fed up with that circle that's not staying the way I want it to. So I just pile on a big chunk of glue and hold it in place and hope that that's going to catch on now and stay how I would like it to look, because I was getting annoyed. And then once I have done that, I've still got 2 little bits of areas that I want to work on. So I'm going to work on one more little cluster here around the photo. And again, just mirroring that same design all the way down, that little gold thread, popping it up on foam and sticking on my poinsettia. And then because I added that big pile of glue, I was a bit nervous that the glue would be super noticeable. Even though it dries clear, I just didn't want that to sort of be a standout there. So I decided to pop a little arrow on foam, just pointing out the photo, highlighting the photo. I thought that would work quite well. And then I just have one more little cluster that I want to work on. I just felt like the very bottom of the page, down along that bottom edge, was just kind of missing something. I didn't really know what. I contemplated tearing the bottom as well, just to sort of mirror the top. And in the end, when I was flicking through all of the ephemera, I found one more word, memories, that I kind of thought would be hard to use on a different layout by itself when I didn't have anything else to go with it, like title-wise. Like I couldn't do Christmas memories or Christmas memory wishes or anything like that. So I decided I would just add it to the bottom of the page and then again go in with one more of those little tags just to finish off the whole spread. And I was really happy with how this was looking now. As I said, if I was going to do this again, I would get a little bit more messy down the sort of waterfall there, add a few more splatters and sprinkles of different things. But in general, I think it's looking really cool. So then I am going to splatter in with my gold splatters because you guys know me, I can't do a single layout without gold splatters. But I'm going to take this moment to remind you to pop on into my description box down below and make sure you check out all the other lovely ladies that are participating in this YouTube hop. There are about 6 of us, I think, creating our own version of this particular layout. So it'd be really great if you can support them and pop on over and have a look at what they've been up to, and all of their channels are listed down below. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you have enjoyed this process and it's inspired you to get a little bit mixed media-y on one of your pages really soon. Thanks everyone. Have a lovely day. Bye.